There. Actually, this looks really good from here. So beautiful high-def quality. A little lighting. Yeah, they'll be fine. Nice spell in the frame. Even though I'm probably gonna obscure the whole time. This is like the IMAX 3D shot. Just like in Beauty and the Beast. Oh, I gotta talk about this. So yeah, as you can tell, I saw Beauty and the Beast last night. The new version, the live-action version. And there were moments in this movie that felt like it was meant to be in 3D. Like, there's this one scene during Dear Guest where it's Mrs. Potts solo, and for no reason, there's this shot where she's in the center, and she's, like, coming out on the screen like this. No, there's, like, all this plates and everything, and she's in the middle, and they do this. like, she's being tossed out of the movie. And it's like, what the hell? It was just so weird, because they pause and she... Like, it's like a three... It felt like the opening to that Three Stooges short Spooks, which was also in 3D, where their heads come out of the screen. But no, either way, this is probably going to be a short CineVlog, because everyone's talking about this one, everyone has their own opinions about it, and people like it, people don't like it, people are like, yeah, it's fine, I kind of sort of fall in the middle on this one. Everybody knows the story, it's been adapted more than once, there's really no reason to do like a big, like, 40, 50-minute rant or anything. I thought it was fine for what it was. Truth be told, I'm not a huge fan of this trend of the live-action Disney films, even though I already got, like, Dumbo, Mulan coming up. Though I will admit, Mulan does hold some promise. When it came to this one, I think the obvious question is, was it really this necessary? This movie was nominated for Best Picture. It won for Best Original Musical Score. Everyone knows it. It's been around for about over 25 years. And at this point in time, after doing a Broadway show and, you know, a live show in Disney World, which I did see back in 2001. I don't know if it's probably still there. I don't know. After this long wave of popularity, and not to mention one Blu-ray release after another, and a few direct-to-video sequels, now is the time you want to do a live-action variation? When you have something that's already packagedly perfect, nonetheless. You know, aside from, like, one or two flaws. But it still holds up pretty well. And the version that I weirdly like enough of the original animated version, 1991, is, believe it or not, the work-in-progress version. And that's pretty much because you actually get to see the animation and, you know, how scenes play out when there's no complete animation. Use, like, storyboards and stuff, and you get to see all the line work and the pencil tests. The transformation scene, oh my goodness. I heard it was done by one person, Glenn Keane, and if I remember correctly, he had about less than 2 or 3 weeks to do it. So it was a huge scramble for him. And to see all that hard work and effort, you know, warts and all, is just incredible. You know, the design work and all the pencil tests and the morphing and everything, it's just incredible that one person did that sequence. And when you compare it to the finished version, the two are just so powerful. Just to see how much emotion a drawing can produce. It's amazing. So, going into this one, I had low expectations. I heard a lot about some of the stuff that they changed around. You know, oh, they got new musical numbers. Oh, they did this to this character, so forth and so forth. If you want the long story short, because there's no reason to examine the plot, because it's the same movie, pretty much, just with new extra story beats and musical numbers. It's really the same thoughts I have with Ron Howard's live-action Grinch movie, which even then a lot of people don't like. This is a good attempt at being a good movie. Even though this is technically better than Ron Howard's Grinch, it shares that factor because it's really trying to take those beautiful drawings and put them in a three-dimensional, world. And I can really give Bill Condon, the director, credit for really going out and putting all this effort in there. The Beast Castle looks amazing. There's a lot of detail and design and things that look, visually incredible. It's definitely, I want to say slightly darker. It's not like all out dark or anything. There's definitely some gothicness to it, even though it has a Disney lightness and tinge to it. There's definitely some nice visuals and some beautiful shots that I really love in this one. But if I have to be dead honest, it does not overpower how great the original movie was. Because when you have something that's been around for so long, and has been well appreciated for a long time, there's no way you're going to recapture that power again. So I'm glad to see they did their variation of it, and at the same time, I feel like they knew they couldn't recapture all that energy into one, in a sense. Like, this is fine on its own. The execution's fine. It's not a bad adaptation. It's not a bad movie, per se. There are worse films. It stands on its own as, decently enjoyable, but if you're such a purist of the original, you're definitely gonna nitpick about a lot of stuff, and really pick apart, oh, it didn't work because of this, oh, it didn't work because of that. As an adaptation of itself, and being, I don't want to say remake, but I'd say more of a film that's trying to clone itself the success of the animated one. It really tries to recapture a lot of the stuff, and in some ways it succeeds, and in some ways it fails because there's more emotional weight riding on the first film because in animation there's so much you can get away with, and in a live action environment there's pacing, there's reality. Let me just break down the cornerstones of this film and where it succeeds and where it doesn't succeed. The performances. You have Emma Watson as Belle. She's no Paige O'Hara, but when she's interacting with people, she's fine. Like, she's not bad, per se. There's no such thing as, a bad interpretation unless the person's not giving it her all. And I think here you can tell she's really trying when she's doing scenes like with her father and she's interacting with stuff, or when she's telling off Gaston. When she's with the Beast, there is a little bit of that chemistry there. Though there are times where I felt more for the Beast than her, and I'll probably get into why in a second. But here's what really kills me. In a movie like this, where it's being a movie musical, the emotion of the character is always depicted in song, and they did that a lot in the animated movie. But he still had those dialogue scenes too that carried the emotion of the character. And I think here Bill wanted to go for more of a traditional musical, which I like those kind of films. I really do. I mean, I saw Finian's Rainbow recently, and that was a lot of fun. And I think with this one, where your character is supposed to emote what she's feeling and saying in song, and when she can't carry that weight to it, there's going to be problems. And, I respect her for playing Hermione, but in Harry Potter, but here, when she was interacting with characters, it was fine. But when she was, trying to sing her heart out, it's hard to say if she was giving it her all, but she's definitely no Barbra Streisand. And I feel bad because when I was listening to her sing in her first number and some of the others, there was something odd with her voice. I don't know what it is. And I really can't put my finger on it. There was something sort of distortedly electronic with it. It sounded really off. And even after the movie, when I was with my folks, that was the first thing I asked. I said, did anyone find anything off with Emma Watson singing? And everyone was like, nope, 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 nope. So then when I got home, I listened to a bit of the soundtrack online. And I compared her to Dan Stevens, who also was electronically altered, because of course he's the Beast. There's got to be some graveliness in his voice and stuff. I mean, they did the same thing Robbie Benson in the original. But whenever I was hearing Emma Watson sing, it didn't carry that emotional weight to it. It just felt like she wasn't really giving it her all. She was kind of just being there. And I feel bad. I really feel bad. And I really can't put my finger on it. But there's just something off about her singing because it's such an essential part to the character. And when that essential part doesn't work, it really harms the main person you're rooting for. Because even in scenes outside of singing, she's fine. She's not horrible or anything. But, when Belle sings her emotion, I want a great adventure in the Great White Somewhere, it doesn't work when your character can't really carry that emotional weight in what she's singing in what she's saying in song. And that was such a big problem for me. Because everyone else is really giving it their all. Dan Stevens as the Beast, he's really this tortured character that's surprisingly a lot more sympathetic. They do add some, origin beats and stuff, which kind of sort of go nowhere, but at the same time, you really do feel that emotion of the character. He's been in isolation for a long time, so all this sympathy and understanding is really mirrored under cruelty and cold-heartedness. And when he interacts with her and starts to get to know her later on, in this version, he's more of a reading bookworm like she is, because he has like this massive library and stuff. I learned about that from hard class. Don't get me started, Romeo and Juliet. Those bits were fine. Those bits I thought were fine. It definitely redefined the character a little more. That showed that he's not such a curmudgeon. He's definitely this person that doesn't understand much because of what happened to him in the past. And I admit, there were points where they did, like, the master's not what he seems, he went through this as a kid, blah, 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 blah. They mention it, and they show some of it, but they don't really pay it off. Which, in a sense, I kind of wish they did. But you can still feel that tragedy of the character. He has this big number near the end, which is really good. It's one of the new ones that they wrote. Alan Menken and Tim Rice, who did The Lion King. And you really feel that emotional weight when he's like scaling this tower, or he's walking up this tower and stuff. You feel that lonesomeness kicking in when he feels changed, but at the same time he knows that the tragedy of him being forever alone is coming upon him. You really feel that weight. You really do. And again, like I said, when you have one character that's really putting his all into it, and you compare it to this other person who's sort of kind of there, it really hampers on the chemistry of these two characters. Because you feel more bad for one person than the other. It really should have been the Beast movie, the more I think about it. Kevin Kline is in it as Maurice, Belle's father, and he has some good moments. He has this really nice song where he's tinkering with the music box. There's some backstory they add on there, which works. I think it works. They definitely channel not just the original fairy tale it's based off of, even a couple of the variations too. There's a little bit of Jacques Cocteau in there from the 1946 French version, where he first goes upon the castle and he sees like all these hand candelabras, which feel like something out of the Cocteau version, which is kind of nice. There's definitely some good. Kevin Kline's always going to be good. How is Luke Evans and Josh Gad as Gaston LeFou? Fun. They really are. They're another cornerstone of the movie that really make it enjoyable. They're having the time of their life. Luke Evans is just yucking up as the villain, which is great because it's Gaston. He's conceited. He's boastful. He's bragful. In this one, he's less of a hunter, and instead they make him a captain from the war, which I can see working. It explains why he's so looked up to as the town hero and stuff, so I can welcome that change a bit. It also explains why he's so demented and twisted, because they hint he has some PTSD. And so when he has LeFou with him, LeFou is there to, be his Prozac, apparently. which I thought was actually pretty nice, and that does play off pretty well in the LeFou character. And speaking of the controversy, or the elephant in the room, can I just add the obvious and say, it can go either way. They set up to the point where they've been close best friends, or LeFou's the kind of guy where he has no sense of an identity, and he's kind of following this guy because this guy's so great and renowned, and in return he's treated well for it. So, it can swing either way. Oh, and when he has his big moment near the end, it's just like 5 seconds. That's everyone was complaining about, just 5 seconds of that? Okay, there's a scene during the number where like he hugs him and they have like a little comedic moment, like, is it too much? Yes, it's too much, LeFou. LeFou, with all the women around this place, I'm surprised you ever dated anyone. Yeah, they said I'm too clingy. Like, that definitely describes the character in a nutshell. Because of his loyalty and determination, which really affects the character and stuff. So, if you're really gonna bash on a movie that changes this one element and claim, oh, it's horrible just because it's around in the kids' minds, see it first! Don't make it out like Monty Python's Life of Brian, for crying out loud. If you're gonna protest against something with a point. Go see it, and if you have a problem with it, criticize, then protest. Don't protest before it comes out, you know? People these days. The fact it's got an 18+ rating in Russia now. And the fact that Molossi is unsure of what to do with it now because Disney decided to postpone its release. This is a crazy world we live in. A crazy, crazy world. This is just an innocent little movie. There's been worse. I'm just going to say that right now. There has been worse. The castle objects are fine. Ewan McGregor as Lumiere is enjoyable, especially when he does the big Be Our Guest number. Ian McKellen as Cogsworth I thought was actually kind of nice. He's definitely channeling a lot of David Orgenstier's character, which is pretty unique. Mrs. Potts is fine, Chip, even though he has some creepy close-up moments. He was good too. They add a thing with the wardrobe that I thought was actually kind of nice, where her boyfriend, this credenza, the two are sort of separated and they want to be together. I thought that was kind of cute, and it pays off really well at the end. They still have the thing with the feather duster, which is interesting. The stuff at the castle is pretty nice too. I like how it's more twisted and surreal. When you first see it, it's like an MC Escher sketch, like something out of Labyrinth. You don't know what's up or down. There's all these staircases and they lead to different rooms and stuff. The design of that was fine. I think that really covers most of performances. There's some really good performances in here. In terms of what they changed for the story, like I said earlier, they definitely channel a lot from the original fairy tale and other elements from other adaptations too, which I think is actually kind of nice. It leads itself as like an homage to those as well, because there's more than one adaptation of the story. Hell, there's one that was done on Shelley Duvall's Fairy Tale Theater, and even that one is more of a color remake of the Jean Cocteau version. And the story's done fine, but there is one particular problem. They do these new elements, explaining backstories, explaining, character beats here and there, and all these little additional things that weren't in the original film to try and, expand off on development stuff. And they're either going to come off as interesting, or they're going to stop the movie. And not in like a show-stopping kind of way where it's meant to be extravagant, but more in a way where it's like, oh, this is a new element that I haven't seen or heard or picked up before. Okay, let's see where this kind of sort of goes. They do change a couple of things. They do change things around here and there. And it either works, or as I said before, it stops the movie a little bit. Like bits where we go into like a little bit of the Beast's backstory. it comes off as a bit of a distraction. It's like, oh, a new character element. Well, let's see where this pays off. And when it doesn't pay off, it's like, oh, well, why do we need that kind of element? The stuff with Belle and her father, and the hinting of, what happened to her mother and stuff, and the fact that she's still curious about it. There's a little more with her and the townspeople that is interesting, but I don't think it's needed. Because we already set up her relationship between her and the townsfolk in the song, so there was really not much of a purpose for it. And the only purpose really is just to somehow get in her reprise there. But when a new story beat comes along, it either adds a little bit of something to the relationship of Belle and the Beast and other characters, or it just sort of stops the movie for a moment, and it really takes you out of it. But then you have moments that do cover plot holes, like there's an additional curse in the castle, and this is from the Broadway version, where apparently every time a petal from the rose falls, there's a section of the castle that becomes more inanimate and less animated. So pretty much not only are the inhabitants transforming into these objects, but they're literally becoming these objects, which is actually pretty nice. So it's like, oh, it's not just, if the prince doesn't find true love, he's going to remain a beast forever. No, it affects everybody, which I thought was actually kind of clever. And that definitely led to something near the end that was actually really good. I'm not going to ruin it, but it did lead to something that was definitely, connected and added a lot more emotional weight than the first. It added more emotional weight, even though there was a sunset in the first one, but it wasn't 100% clear. The songs, they're still the same songs from the original film. They just tweak the lyrics up around a little bit, and they add some new material, of course, for story reasons, and because, hey, if you know these songs and hear these new bits, and every time there's a new bit, like in the Gaston number, there's a couple lines they got from the Broadway version, and a couple of variations too. There's a bit where LeFou fails at spelling his name, which was kind of cute. It drags it down a little bit because you're more focused on, okay, this is something new. How does it affect the performance overall? And I think it's a case where the original so well that if they just simply copy and paste it, it'd be like, oh, they're just revamping this so and so. And I think with them tweaking the lyrics, it's interesting because it does give itself a bit of new variation, even though it's not adding much to it. Is there a sense of cynicalness behind these new additions just to keep it supposedly fresh? Maybe. But at least I can guarantee that it's trying to. That at least it's trying to separate itself from the original animated movie, even though we know it's literally trying to be this clone of it with new elements and stuff. I think one of my disappointments overall is that it's not like the Jungle Book version, where at least it was doing a different story, and it wasn't cloning itself from the original. It was just being its own thing. And I think here, they were stuck with a double-edged sword. We either stick with what they were doing in the animated film, or we do our own version, or we try to find a thin line between the middle and just walk it. And I think they went with that third option. And it either helped, and I think it helped and harmed them at the same time, pretty much for the performances and the story beats. But overall, I really don't think this is a bad movie. I didn't hate this. I enjoyed it. But a good portion of my heart is still going to love the 91 animated movie. Because, not just because I grew up on it, but because it still holds up. Even if you notice there's some CGI animation here and there, because there is a lot more emotional weight to it. It's powerful, and even if it does have a couple of problems here and there, you're still gonna feel that. You're still gonna feel that powerful delivery through it all the way. You still love these characters as they're charming and interesting. And there's a sense of mystery to it. And there's a lot more subtle stuff with it. And here, they do the same thing in different ways, and it's either going to work or not work. But what I can say for this one is for all the elements they did that were different, despite being small, there's definitely some big ones, but not too big. They were interesting to see. I'm not going to write them off as like flukes or anything. But like I said, when they stopped the story, they stopped the story. But I can't really say it. I can't say it. Did anything bad to the enjoyment. I can't say anything about that much. It just really, it was really its own thing. Because because earlier back in 1996 we had, what was it, 95? Well, in the mid 90s we had that 101 Dalmatians live action film. I liked that for what it was. I liked how it did things different, and definitely did its own thing. And I think if they did more of those live action trends like that, it would be interesting because they would have been in their own environment. It wouldn't be this big copy paste and let's just chuck like 25% out of this or replace it with something else. I think that's the direction I sort of want to see them go into. After hearing what they're going to do with Mulan, I'm a little curious. But I think for this one, look, it's not going to matter what you think of my opinion, This movie already made $170 million at the box office, and people are either loving it or hating it. And I think I'm just sort of down the middle. It's not a bad film. It's definitely not a bad film. If you really just want to see a fantasy that is fun and heartwarming, you'll get your kicks. If you want to see a movie that is a near, keyword near, shot-for-shot remake of its original predecessor, again, you'll get your kicks here. But if you love the original so much to the point where you really don't think it can be possible to overpower the original, you'll be pretty biased on this one. I think that's my best recommendation. I'm glad I saw it. I'm glad I enjoyed it. For what it was, not half bad. So, take my 2 cents for what it is. Be glad you didn't get an angry Morgan moment. Hell, March is already becoming, like, reboot madness month anyway. We already had, like, Time After Time, which was actually not that bad. Last week we had Kong Skull Island, and this week we had Beauty and the Beast, and now we have Power Rangers coming up. Oh my goodness. Though I did kind of like Kong a little better. How is it that there were 2 monster movies that came out this month, and yet the better one has John C. Reilly in it? Alright, I'm just gonna end it there. Not a bad adaptation, not a perfect one either. Yeah, I enjoyed it. Later.